Hello you beautiful creatures, how the devil are you? I hope you're okay. If you're new here, my name is Lou, or Lucifer, as my friends like to call me. By my friends I mean my Instagram account. You can see that I am not alone today. I am with my pumpkin, my furry one, but otherwise known as Gareth. I think
I still got that title card.
You do still have that title card. That is saved now. That's his forever now. He's very pleased about that. We are back from seeing Scream and we absolutely adored it. So I thought, because we usually have conversations about movies after we finish seeing them anyway, don't we? And they get quite in depth. So I thought, why not just film it? Why not just kind of start this side of YouTube where we can talk about horror movies that we've just seen, what we liked, what we didn't like, rate certain things, like I did with the Terrorizer video.
Terrifier.
Terrifier. Oh, fake fan. Great, good. This is off to a good start. Basically, we're going to use this time, we're going to talk about the plot, we're going to talk about the antagonist, we're going to talk about the themes, and we are going to talk about the practical effects. That one will be very short because there weren't that many. But that's okay, that's okay. We have been anticipating this film for a long time, haven't we?
Well, it's out of all of the other films, this actually had a really quick turnaround from trailer to release.
I think it's because of COVID. I genuinely think it's because of COVID, because like things seem to calm down a little bit.
Because the first trailer only came out around Halloween time, around
Did
October.
It?
Yeah. I swear it did. But it was a very quick turnaround.
Time seems to meld together nowadays. I don't know where things are coming and when things are going. But I hope you enjoy your time with us. That was a good segue. I love that. So join us as we talk about Scream, the things we like with the things we don't like. Grab yourselves a cup of tea in a cute little pumpkin mug. It doesn't have to be that specific. Get a nice cozy blanket and join us into this horrifying journey. Firstly, I kind of like to talk about the plot. Now, I basically gave Scream in general a 5 out of 5 little devil rating. However, we're going to go more into the specifics of things. Some of the ratings are going to go down, some of them are going to go up. You get what I mean. But all in all, the film was really good.
It flowed.
It did flow. It doth flow, and it was good because it brought in so many things from the past. And it brought in so many new concepts as well. Like this was a fan service. This really was a fan service, which we shall get into a little bit later, because that is a massive theme about fandoms, toxic fandoms in general. I feel called out with this film. But we basically start, it's 20 years after...
25 years.
It's 25 years after the original Scream murders with Billy Loomis and Stu. And it's just... I don't know, from the get-go, it's literally fan service, because obviously you guys know the phone scene. Tara, she gets a phone call, and I really like the fact that she's got a home line, like a telephone, and she's got a mobile phone as well. I really like the juxtaposition.
That T's going to go everywhere the way you're moving around.
Oh my god, it is. We're going to die. Because when that first came out, we didn't have mobile phones. Like, they were starting to come in.
There's a story, because we've been watching a lot of horror convention videos on YouTube, and we've been watching a lot of panels, especially Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich, who played Stu Macher and Billy Loomis, respectively.
Skeet is just...
And yeah, Matthew was saying that the only phone that was on set that was a mobile phone was Wes Craven's, and it was like a brick.
Yeah. I remember when you did have a Nokia. Like, all the cool kids had a Nokia.
And they were indestructible.
They were. If you chuck that thing, you guarantee it was going to cause, like, an earthquake or something. It was not going to break. And just seeing how far things have kind of progressed, but the fact that even with all this technology, like, this is very spoiler heavy, pre-warning, she still got attacked. So the fact that you have all this technology, like, the house has been rigged with this kind of stuff. She can use an app on her phone to
lock all the doors,
and that was a really good scene that I liked. The intensity of someone hacking her phone, or having another phone where the doors locked and the doors opened, and I hated it. I really hated it. But the introduction we got to Ghostface was fantastic, really fantastic.
Another shout out, another fantastic performance by Roger L. Jackson.
See, it was really weird, because when we got the first phone call, he sounded a lot less like Ghostface.
It's been 25 years since the original, so obviously he's aged.
But it seemed like it took the second phone call for him to get into the flow of it.
Well, no, because if you think about it, in the first one, he's putting up an act.
That's very valid, actually. Yeah. It sounds...
He's trying to lure Tara into a full sense of security.
Yes. And he plays this questionnaire with her, which is really fun. So if you guys haven't seen a couple of the original Scream movies, I've only seen the first Scream. However, you've seen...
All of them.
All of them. And they talk about the Stab movies. So they're basically the... Oh, how do I explain this?
So the Stab franchise is basically the Scream franchise, but through the eyes of Gail Weathers.
So
Gail wrote a book detailing the events of the first movie, which was then adapted into a movie called Stab. And then they carried it on and they made 8 installments. And like most horror franchises or any franchise, they got worse as they went along.
Which is a massive comment on horror movies in general.
Well, any movie. I mean, look at Star Wars.
Well, yeah, no, we don't talk about Star Wars on this channel. We love Star Wars. We do love Star Wars. However, they done it dirty. We're hoping that Jon Favreau will bring it back. Anyway.
And he's doing a good job with The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, he is. I do like The Mandalorian. We're getting off track. I don't know. So basically, Ghostface is asking this poor girl about the Stab franchise, and this is the first movie, the first Stab, isn't it? The main questions are from the first one. No,
they're from the whole franchise, but she's only seen the first one.
Like me, so I die. But he basically asks her all these questions and she kind of gets them wrong, but again, using the technology from today, he basically shows her that he knows where her friend is, and if she doesn't answer the questions, her friend's gonna die. So again, it plays with those dynamics of how can Ghostface be in multiple places at once. Obviously, we see later on throughout the movie that there's more than one Ghostface. And
very much like the first one.
Yeah, very much like the first one. Like, it was pretty obvious from the get-go that there were 2 ghost faces. Because this is such a big homage to the first film. Obviously, she gets attacked. It's brutal. It is absolutely brutal. I would argue it's more intense than the first one.
With regards to brutality, yes. With regards to tension building, probably say the first one more.
Yeah. Wow. There's another scene that we want to talk about.
Oh, no. I'm on about opening scenes.
Oh, right, okay, cool.
I'm on about opening scenes.
Yeah, but that opens it up fantastically. It really, really does. Then we're introduced to Tara's sister, Samantha. I really like her. I do genuinely really like her. There's... The cast in general, obviously we're going to like the original ones because they're the original ones. You know, Dewey, Gail and Sydney. They all bring the original vibe back. I dig it. I really, really do.
But they're not in for as much as you think.
No, they really aren't. We watched a couple of reviews beforehand and they did say that they weren't in it as much as they thought they would be. And we just thought, oh yeah, they'll come in like a quarter of the way through. No, they don't. It's a good... halfway into the movie until you get to see even Dewey. Like, Dewey's the first one you see. You get more time with Dewey than
Sydney.
Gail, on and off. Like, you do get nods to her. We'll get further into that in a later day. They done Dewey dirty. I don't care what anybody says. They done Dewey dirty. David Arquette is my nemesis. He doesn't know that. But he's in every single thing that I see. I tried watching Creepshow, he was in that. I tried watching a bunch of other stuff, he's in that. So he's on my hit list, but he doesn't know it. If I could get a hit list signed by David Arquette, that would make my life. I've gone off on a tangent. Anyway, so the main cast, they're not lovable. Like, I didn't get attached to any of them.
You did, Sam.
Well, Sam, like one of them. I got attached to Sam.
And Richie.
Yeah, Richie was okay. Richie was alright. But, like, not on the same degree as the first one.
No.
Like, I really didn't. Like, seeing Sydney just being an absolute legend and taking on 2 of these guys that were supposed to be really close to her, that's epic. As a woman, seeing that kind of stuff, that's really empowering. obviously, as time's gone on, we see more of that, and you know, we see it more and more in today's theatre. But I don't know. No, I only really like one or two of them. I mean, like I said in the previous review,
some of the other characters are forgettable.
Yeah, they are. And
they're your typical horror movie tropes.
Like, you could literally sit there and pick them off and be like, so you're gonna die first, then you're gonna die, then you're gonna die. Amber, particularly, I did not like her at all. Like, she was just vile.
And her character sort of arc, just it changes on the flip of a coin. But anyway. Yeah,
so Sam basically gets involved. She gets called by Tara's friendship group saying Tara's been attacked by Ghostface, you need to come in and see what the shindig is. But there's beef, there's a lot of beef, there's a secret that you find out about it later, and then we get introduced to her boyfriend, don't we? We like him, he's okay, he's the comedy. He really is the comedy behind this film. Not most of it, but he adds to it. I really like him. And I can't remember what his name is in the film for the life of me.
I just said Richie.
Richie! Gosh, I'm so sorry.
Now.
You can tell who the brains is behind this operation, can't
who's
you?
Who's been paying attention?
Hey, I had my mouth open for most of it. I was just like, oh my god. Richie, yes, I really do like Richie. Richie reminds me a lot of a less intense Stu. Like, just with his quips. I really, really like Richie. We obviously like him from The Boys as well. He was a lot of fun in that. But Richie takes Sam to go and see her sister. That's where the beef starts. Amber does not want her anywhere near Tara, and we kind of find out about that later.
That is in that scene when they arrive.
She basically abandoned her. But the big twist of why she abandoned her turns out that Sam is actually the illegitimate daughter of Billy Loomis.
And she's getting psychotic visions of him, so Skeet Ulrich is in the movie.
I know. Seeing all the different like moments with him like coming back, it just made me so happy. It really did. And reminded me why over half of us think he's just... You know what I mean. It's fun because, like you've said, in panels, they've
been constantly talking about that they're not in it. Matthew Lillard seems to be leaning more towards saying that he was in it. Skeet was all that guy. No, I'm not in it.
Skeet's a lot quieter in the panels,
but he's just as fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
But when he turned up on screen, we were like,
"It's you! It's you!" I couldn't believe it. It was. Well, I just loved it. But we find out that Sam is the illegitimate daughter of Billy Loomis. She confronts her mother about it, and she basically becomes the homewrecker of the family. Their dad leaves because of it. She becomes distant because of it. She's basically terrified that she's going to become like Billy Loomis, so she distances herself from her sister to protect her, which is a really nice thought, but
backfires,
as it usually does. There's a lot of family drama in this, as there always is. And we see that the characters are slowly getting picked off one by one, and it's just a joy to watch.
Yeah. The second kill, there was one character that was introduced. You see him in the trailer. He's the one urinating on the side of a building, and he's a scumbag. He is a scumbag, and.
So one of the more forgettable characters in the friendship group, she went on a summer camp and she met up with this guy. I think they slept together or something, but he's creeping around her. He seems like a suspect. He really does.
He is your quintessential. He is a more intense version, I'd probably say, of Cotton. For those of you who watched the first two, first three actually. He's in the third one and for a little bit as well. Liev Schreiber's character. But this guy's more intense. He's just a dirtbag, but
the kill's good.
It is a good kill with a nice little musical nod as well.
Red right hand. If anyone's seen Peaky Blinders, you know what I'm talking about. And then we get Dewey involved. So it turns out that Dewey and Gail broke up, which is really sad. Really sad. I didn't even know they got together because I've only watched the first one. But he's washed up. It's really sad to watch. His facial expressions have calmed down a lot though, which I really appreciate, because that's one of the things I didn't like in the first film. I didn't like how his face just seemed to be one kind of acting aspect, and his vocals seem to be another acting aspect, but he has really, really calmed down, and he was easily one of my favourite characters from this film.
He essentially gets back in touch with Sydney and Gail, just to warn them that Ghostface is back and don't come back to Woodsboro. Woodsboro, that's all.
And then we see another kill, which is really delightful, and it includes it's the deputy, isn't it?
For those of you who've seen Scream 4, Deputy Judy is now the sheriff.
Yes, and it's her son. So she goes to leave, her son goes for a shower, Judy gets a call in the car, it's Ghostface. It's a red herring situation. He's playing with her, and I really enjoy that. And he says, have you ever seen Psycho? We all know the death scene from Psycho in the shower. Her son's in the shower. She promptly turns around and goes back home. And I like a lot of the characters' choices in this, and I like the fact, and again, it's like Terrifier, where even though you can make the right decisions in horror movies, they can still backfire on you. So she goes back home and she's stabbed in broad daylight, and I love that. I really do.
Rather savagely as well. Literally multiple stabs, fast, very...
How did no one walk past that?
It's America.
Yeah, valid. Stick to your own
No
business.
offence.
No offence. I'm so sorry
to
about
visit.
this. We do.
Please
we really
let us
do.
visit.
Please let us in. But then...
This is my favourite scene.
What follows is the most intense setting of the table I have ever seen in my entire life. So you know when...
Oh, do you know why he was called Wes?
Because of Wes Craven.
In honour of Wes Craven. And Sam's surname is Carpenter.
Oh.
For John Carpenter.
John Carpenter. What a lad. Do like John Carpenter.
Anyway, but this scene was, oh my god, so good.
Every time, like... In a cliche horror movie, so you think someone opens the door, they rummage around for a little bit, they shut the door, and then the killer's there. This happens about 5 times.
And they do the typical tropes as they raise the tension, bring the music up, always to a crescendo, and then you're waiting, and there's nothing.
And it's phenomenal. It's easily one of my favourite scenes, and nothing happens. And Ghostface even leaves the door open at one point for him to discover his mother, and he just shuts the door. He shuts the door, and it really made me laugh out loud. I can just imagine Ghostface being in the corner like, bruh, what? Why have you done that? He turns around one final time, and Ghostface is there, and he gets a stabbing.
Quite a nice one as well, through the neck, through the artery, and it's a very slow one as well. So it's not your typical stab, stab, stab. It's literally pushing in.
But you said that it was CGI, didn't you?
Yeah. I don't think you can make that a practical effect. If it is practical effects, fair play. But I'd probably compare that one similar to Halloween 2018.
Yes.
During that one take where Michael comes behind that woman, smashes her head on the windowsill, and then stabs through the back of the neck. That's a CGI effect.
The problem is, with a lot of these mainstream horror movies, you're not going to get the practical effects that you want. The practical effects side of horror, you're looking more at Shudder releases, which... I don't know, I have a gripe with it. We'll talk about that in a second. And this is the point where Lou gets upset because Dewey was done wrong. He was done dirty. And you called it, didn't you?
Yeah, before the film came out, I said that one of the originals had to die. And I said, out of it, all the 3, it would have to be Dewey. Because he's been stabbed God knows how many times throughout the whole franchise. So it just makes sense for Dewey to go.
I got so sad.
But the way he went out was almost like a hero. It was like a hero's death. The way the scene was set up is that after they discovered Wes and his mum, they
went to the
police
hospital.
officer who was originally in charge of protecting Tara was at the scene of the crime because the sheriff had died. He was the deputy. So Sam rushes to the hospital with Dewey in tow, and all the while Ghostface has arrived, has killed the officer on duty down there, and is stalking Tara, which again is another really good scene.
Yeah, the hospital is so eerie and empty, but again, it really annoys me because in today, it wouldn't be that empty. I'm just saying, in a normal situation, it wouldn't be that empty.
And also, it got dark very quickly.
Yeah, it did.
But anyway, I look over that because there's so many good scenes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. We're trying to bring together all our favourite scenes, and this was definitely a good one. The fight between Ghostface and Dewey, you could almost, even though you can't see the expression on Ghostface, you could see that this was a moment for them. You really could, because... And
when they did the kill, they said the words, "It's an honour," because so they know who Dewey was. Yeah,
and that goes back into the whole fandom toxicity side of it, but again, we'll go into that later. But it shows you how crazy people can get. It really does. And it was emotional. It really was emotional, because Gail had been there for a couple of hours beforehand, hadn't she?
Yeah.
And this is where Sydney turns up, and you could
Dewey, before we go into that, I just want to say that I think out of this movie, this kill was the most brutal.
You'd say Dewey's was
Dewey's was the most brutal.
Would you say it's your favourite kill?
No.
No. Interesting.
No, my favourite was for the garage door in the original.
No, I meant for this movie.
Oh, for this movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dewey.
He was gutted. He was literally gutted.
One knife in the front, one knife in the back, and then just pulled up.
You could hear the sound effects as well. Whoever's in charge of the sound effects, if you're watching this, well done, because that's bad. And then we see the emotional moment.
Sydney returns to Woodsboro.
And it was just a moment of, oh, she's here. Oh my God, she's here. Obviously, you see in the trailer where Dewey is talking to Sydney. Have you got have you got guns? I'm Sydney Prescott. Of course I've got guns. I love that bit. I really did. But
all the while when she's on a jog with her kids.
Yeah. seeing her back in her hometown, it really was intense. And the fact that they were so fearless, and they were like, right, there's another Ghostface, we need to kill them. No remorse whatsoever, no second question in it, just, have you got a gun? Yeah, right, we're going to go and end this. And she does basically say to Sam that...
Well, the only reason she came back was after hearing of Dewey's death.
Yeah.
That was the only reason she came back.
She wouldn't have come back otherwise, I don't think. No. I don't think she would have.
No, because she's got a family to protect.
Yeah. But she basically says to Sam that, look, you know, if you don't sort this out now, it's not going to stop. And
very much like what happened to Sydney.
Yeah. It hasn't
she
stopped.
She thought it was over from the first Scream. No, it carried over the second to Scream 2, carried over to Scream 3, then carried over to Scream 4. This is like a whole new chapter.
I want to know who Sydney's therapist is, because they've got a lot to deal with. And the fact that she's so level-headed, all I'm saying is she must be giving them that dollar.
Well, in Scream 4, she's an author.
Oh, good stuff.
She wrote a book when she came back to Woodsboro for a book tour, but anyway.
Good for her. Yeah, so there's a whole situation where Sam's taking her little sister out the hospital. She's like, we just got to leave. We just got to go, because then it'll stop. Shock horror, her little sister has to have an inhaler, and Tara somehow misplaces it. And the only place that there's another inhaler is at this Amber's house, who I absolutely detest. Turns out they were seeing each other, then they broke up. She was just very overprotective and very toxic, and I did not like that. But guess where the party is?
Stu Macker's house, which Amber's parents bought. And the party is for Wes. It's I don't know. It was meant to be a memorial party, but it looked more like a rave. I don't know if that's the case.
Apparently, what are they? Gen Z kids, millennials. Gen Zs. They just party when they're sad. So
teenagers.
I don't know about that. I'm a 90s kid.
Yeah. But then with this scene, this is where, for me, it got too meta.
Yeah, because it almost seemed like a play-by-play of the original party for me personally.
It was more of it's not really more of the original. It was more a case of how do I know you're not the killer? Well, I am the killer. No, I'm not. But you just said you're not the killer, so does that mean you are the killer? Or why don't you go up those stairs first? No, after you. Or why are you going down there by yourself? It sort of lost traction a little bit for me personally, but it didn't affect the whole movie as a whole. It was just a little snag.
Yeah.
For me personally.
And then we kind of see, I don't know what her name is, but one of the other friendship group members, she's watching Stab on the sofa.
She's watching Stab, which is essentially scene by scene Scream 1996.
But it's the same situation as Scream 1, where they're talking about the rules of surviving a horror movie.
Oh, and this person, the girl who's watching, her and her twin brother, so in the law, are nephew and niece to Randy, who was played by Jamie Kennedy, the one who did the speech of surviving a horror movie.
Every single member of the friendship group has either got a relative or a close friend that had something to do with the original Scream movie. So whether they were involved in the case, whether they were involved in the friendship group, so on and so forth, and that's why they're kind of all being picked off, which I liked, and it really works with the new generation of passing the torch, and you know, with like Laurie's family passing on in Halloween, passing on from herself to her daughter, R.I.P. to...
If you haven't seen Halloween Kills.
Spoiler alert! To her granddaughter. And it's nice because it's ensuring that the horror franchise does continue and the horror genre does continue from the older generation to the new generation. So then it all just kicks off, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All just kicks off.
Kicks off, pandemonium, the killers are revealed.
Turns out it's Amber, shock horror, because she wasn't the nicest person in the first place. And Richie was the killer. And even Dewey was like, you can't trust him because he's a love interest. What happened in the first one?
Dewey called it.
He did. He called it. But what I liked about it so much was that it was so obvious when he said it that you wanted to say, no, it's not, because that's obvious. You didn't want to believe that it was a whole Sydney, Billy Loomis situation all over again, because that would be too easy. But that was how they threw you off, because it was actually too easy. It was that situation. And this is where the idea of toxic fandoms comes in, because...
They got together on a subreddit.
It's always on Reddit, isn't it? It's always on Reddit. I love Reddit. But look what happens when you're obsessed with Reddit. You turn into serial killers. Let that be a lesson to you. Don't use Reddit all the time. Apart from r/revenge. Pro-revenge. That's a good Reddit. Anyway, it turns out that they're absolutely sick to the back teeth of how stale the horror genre is now and how good things used to be in the past. With certain horror franchises, they basically go to the dogs and they need to be refreshed.
They need to be taken back to the source material.
Which is happening with all of them at the moment. It's happening with Halloween. It's happening with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I wouldn't be surprised if we see another Nightmare on Elm Street at some point. It's possible. It might happen.
It's just that Robert Englund will never play Freddy again.
Well, you don't know. Well, yeah.
He said it himself.
Yeah, valid.
And then good luck getting Friday the 13th, because they're in a legal war at the moment.
Well, yeah. But that's the thing, you know. I feel like nobody's, and they say this, nobody's got original ideas anymore, so they look to the past to kind of
get ideas
and put a fresh lick of paint on it. And I love this scene so much because you've got Sam, you've got Sydney, and you've got Gail in the kitchen again, where the infamous kitchen scene happened in the first one, where they reveal their whole plan. It's not like word for word
or shot by shot,
but it's basically, I call that kitchen the evil scheme revealing kitchen, because that's where it all seems to go down. Yeah, I loved it. Obviously the main protagonist, they get the upper hand.
I liked with when the Amber gets taken out first. She gets hit over the head with a huge bottle of hand sanitizer. Now I don't know if that was intentional as a Screw You 2020 reference.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that's a COVID joke. That's not a joke. Don't joke about COVID. Wear your masks.
I thought that was quite funny. And then what happened to her, and then what happened to Richie.
But you called it as well, didn't you? Because when everyone was scattered throughout the house, Richie was hiding in a cupboard. Tara had been taken away. So whilst they were looking for the inhaler, Tara had been taken away and wrapped up by Amber. But when Sydney went to kind of...
And she was talking to Ghostface.
Yeah, and again they said, like... I think they said it's an honour. I'm not too sure.
No, not this bit.
but they basically like, joke's on you, I got you exactly where I wanted you, like, you're not smart,
And then she went to hang up, and he was like, wait, and then split second later, she shoots through a door and hits Richie in the leg. But I noticed there was a phone on the floor.
This guy, he calls everything. You can't watch a horror movie with a twist. M. Night Shyamalan films, you can't watch with him because he knows. I watched The Visit and he knew within how long?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. Anyway, it was really good. Obviously Tara got free and she got involved with basically beating the hell out of Amber and Richie. And there was just this moment where Richie and Sam, they fell down the stairs. They were both like prone and lying, and you think it's all over.
She looks up into a mirror and sees Billy
Loomis, and you think this is the moment where she essentially turns into him for like a brief second, because she grabs a knife that's hidden under one of the
well, it's the same knife, but it's just fallen under.
She basically picks up the knife and she just stabs this guy to death, and she does not stop.
And slits his throat.
And it's like you're watching Billy Loomis, which I think is fantastic, because she did still essentially turn into the thing that she was scared of. And I love that.
Well, she did do it like Billy, because if you watch videos regarding the first Scream, there's theory videos of when you see Ghostface, is it Billy or is it Stu? And there's one way you can tell who it is. Billy always holds the knife in one hand and is stabbing and slicing, whereas Stu holds it two hands over the head.
Yeah.
So that's how you can tell the difference.
Yeah. And I really love that moment, because that moment was her accepting who she was. And I really, really like that. And seeing her, Sydney and Gail all together, it was phenomenal to watch. It really was. And that's basically...
And not to forget they always had to put in the killer always comes back for one final scare.
She just grabs a gun and just shoots him repeatedly, like, I ain't even worried. I ain't scared. I'll kill him. It's fine.
But it's not Richie coming back. It was Amber coming back.
Yeah, it was Amber coming back. So
she just been burnt to a crisp, and she started running at them, and she got shot by Tara.
Yes, and it was beautiful, and I loved it because I hate Amber. Which, if that was her character in general, the actor played her phenomenally, really, really well. She played her as the really spiteful, nasty girl that no one really likes, but has just got that edge to her, that edge of nastiness to her. And if that was her acting note, then you played it phenomenally. You really, really did. But then it just ends, doesn't it?
Ends on a nice note.
Yeah, everyone's getting bandaged up, and the sisters are back together, and Gail and Sydney are back together, and... Yeah,
and then it ends with the little title card, Four Wares. Before a little Ghostface jump scare.
It's sad because, you know...
I reckon he would have been proud of this movie.
Oh yeah, he definitely would have. For plot... This is going to sound mean. We decided, haven't we, to give this a 4 out of 5 Little Devils. Yeah. I think. I did really... The plot was okay. The plot was good. It was really good fan service. We really did enjoy it. You loved it even more because obviously you've seen more of the Scream movies. You know all the references. So it was exciting. It really was exciting.
Oh, and the big cameo as well. Well, it's not. If you're in the know in the horror genre and in the horror fandom on YouTube, Dead Meat. Janice and Chelsea. We were partway through, and Richie, who's watching Stab theories and watching the franchise, and then we just see him and we're there. Wait, we know that voice.
That's Dead Meat.
And then we just see it's James and Chelsea.
Yeah. Good for them. Good for them. Like, that would be a dream if we could ever do something like that. I would love that. I really would. But yeah, it was a really good plot. The antagonist, Ghostface, 5 out of 5.
Ghostface, 5 out of 5.
Wow. Before we realised who it was, mainly because I'm sour about Amber. So originally it was a 5 out of 5 because Ghostface was I can't swear on this channel, but he was not a nice person. They were not a nice person, and they were just relentless and ruthless. But when you kind of realised who it was, it always takes that.
Nothing can live up to Billy and Stu.
No. So before we knew who they were, I would say 5 out of 5, because it was almost like you were seeing the original Ghostface.
I'd still say as Ghostface, as that entity.
Yeah.
Always a 5 out of 5.
So just permanently throughout the film.
As Ghostface.
But after.
Because obviously when a killer is revealed, you now see them as those individuals. You don't see them as Ghostface anymore.
Ghostface is gone.
Ghostface, in my opinion, Ghostface goes when the reveal happens.
Yeah. So for the Ghostface, we will say 5 out of 5. For the actual killers, I will say 3.5 out of 5. Do you feel that's fair?
I'd say that's fair.
Yeah, fair. If you disagree, let us know.
Because with me, like, Amber has spent all the film being moody, overprotective, and then like that, at a snap of a finger, she's all psychotic and crazy. Richie started deteriorating as the film went on.
Yeah.
So you could sort of try and guess him. You could see, and there was loads of red hair. They were trying to throw red herrings with Richie a lot. He
seemed like Stu. He seemed more unhinged and more with less of a backbone than Amber.
What was Stu? He was more easily led.
Yes.
He was led on by Billy. Billy was the mastermind.
Yeah.
Stu was just there for the ride. Obviously, Matthew Lillard is fantastic in that movie. He's
chef's kiss.
Amazing.
We would like to visit. We'd like to meet him at one point, won't we?
And Skeet.
And Skeet. Oh my days! When I saw him, I was like, oh, I remember why everyone fancied him. Now for the themes, and this is where the big monologue with Amber and Richie comes in, because it's basically the whole film. I feel it's about toxic fandom, and we've looked at the wiki as well. That's what they were aiming for. You know, being a fan of something is a beautiful thing. Like, having this thing to look up to and be like, that's amazing, I love that so much, and it can become your comfort blanket if you particularly had a hard day, and you can go and watch a film and you can feel protected. But then the fandom grows and grows and grows, and you get a group of people, and suddenly they become so over passionate about something that they don't necessarily make the right decisions. I don't know about you guys, but if any of you are on Tumblr, you'll know what the concept of a Tumblr war is, when either two fandoms fight against each other. There's a civil war in a fandom where they're just fighting each other over something really stupid, or people are just being petty and trollish and horrible. It happens.
That's just the internet.
Yeah, it is. And it has a statement on the internet that it can become this horrible thing. Like, with all this technology we've got now, we can hide behind something and we can become this horrible person, and it can really sour a fandom. The genre that I've noticed is most untouched by fandom toxicity is the horror genre. You know, you look at the supernatural fandom. I'm sorry if anyone feels called out. I feel called out. You look at some of the supernatural fandom, some of the Sherlock fandom, Doctor Who fandom. My God, the Doctor Who fandom is horrendous. It really is. And Star Wars. And when Star Wars and Star Trek meet each other, they're horrible towards each other. And yet, it's the same concept. It's out in space. Like, it's all these fantastical stories. Why can't we just get along? But it's these people looking at a film series that they love, and they don't like where it's going, and they want to change that in the worst possible way. You guys know, like, if you've seen a sequel or a third film and it's not the best, you look back at the first one and think, why can't it be like that? Like, why isn't it as good as that one? Nothing's ever as good as the first one, because it was the first in the franchise. It's the birth of an idea, and we can never go back to that, and that's the scary part. So, you know, when these films do come along, like these Scream films, these new Halloween films, this new Texas Chainsaw Massacre films, That's why we call it fan service, because it's going back to the original source material and trying to bring it in with a fresh perspective, with fresh actors, with a fresh cast. Unfortunately, we can't live in the past. We can't live with just Scream 1 or the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre or the...
It's like everyone ranting about Halloween Kills.
Yeah.
And the messages it was saying. Yeah, it was yes, granted, it was a statement on the culture of what we're living in today.
I love Halloween Kills.
I'll say now, I'm a big fan of Michael Myers, so I'm going to like it regardless. But I could see why people didn't like it. I mean, personally, I didn't like the scenes in that where it's like evil dice, that mob mentality.
Even some of the actors didn't like it.
Yeah, and even like the like number one Halloween fan, like he said he didn't like that scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're allowed to not like something.
But I think, as a society, we don't know how to not like things anymore, because everything's so overpolished and everything's trying to be catered for, that when you try and cater for everybody, it falls apart. Like the Star Wars franchise. I'm sorry, but it has to be said. The sequels were abysmal. They really were. And the fact that they had to use the last film to try and bring it back, I'm sorry, but you shouldn't be using a film to bring anything back. You really shouldn't. And
somehow Palpatine returned, which they then explained in a book.
Go read the book, apparently. But I felt called out. I'm guilty of it too. If I'm watching a series and then I watch one season that I don't particularly like and I go off on a mad one, that's toxic. That really is. And if you're forcing that opinion on the actors, I mean, one key example, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. John, what's his name?
Oh, yes.
US agent.
Yeah.
US agent.
John Walker.
That's his character. And
I can't remember the actor's name, but he was in Overlord as well.
He's the son of the Thing. My favourite.
Oh, he's Kurt Russell.
He's Kurt Russell's boy, and my God, can you tell he is a fine boy. And the amount of hate.
This was during his Captain America persona.
Yeah.
When he was trying to play Captain America.
Yeah. And in the comics, that's what he does. He's portraying the law, and people didn't like that. No.
I enjoyed. I thought his performance was great.
Yeah.
He was fantastic.
People don't like new things. People don't like new things. They like
the Eternals. We watched the Eternals the other day, and I even though I saw it in the cinema, but it was your first time.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
And it's a long film. It's a very long film, 2.5 hours.
Oh God, it is.
But they've got quite a lot to fit. They had a lot to fit in that time. But if you took it for what it was and try and ignore everything else that's been going on in the Marvel universe, enjoyed it.
It's also the manufacturing side of it too. Now, I've recently found one of my new favourite horror movies of all time, which is Terrifier. If you haven't seen that review, please go and check it out. I work really hard on these things. But I adore it, but it hasn't got nearly as big a fan base as Scream has, or Halloween has, or Friday the 13th has, and it's a wonderful fan base at the moment. Everyone's really supportive. Art the Clown messaged me because I said that he was an inspiration for, inspiring me to run for charity, and he replied to me, the director replied to me, and the thing that I'm scared of is the movie itself. I really like the first movie, but obviously as things get more popular, you get more funding, you get more companies involved. Companies want money through merchandising, manufacturing. Sometimes
they have a bigger say in things.
Yeah, they do. And sometimes horror movies have to water these certain things down to apply with manufacturing, with ratings in. You don't get a rated 18 a lot anymore. Nowhere near as much as when we were kids.
No.
You don't.
This one was an 18 today.
Yeah.
Scream.
You're looking at Shudder for the majority of your 18 stuff now, and that's more low budget stuff. Whereas horror franchises now, they become watered down because they're trying to appeal to a bigger audience because of manufacturing purposes. And I'm terrified that that's what's going to happen to Terrifier. But yeah, Scream makes a big comment on it. It makes a big comment on the worry of things changing because money is involved. It makes a comment on things, the directors having to listen to the fans because they don't like something, and sometimes the customer's not always right. That's all I'm saying. But I'm going massively into like the philosophy side of it now, but I do feel called out personally for all the right reasons because it delivers that message. And that's what Richie and Amber were trying to say in their monologue, the reason why they did all of this, to try and bring something back that they know, something that's legit, something that's good, something, yeah. And for that, I would give the themes a 4.5 out of 5, potentially. Yeah, I think I would. Practical effects, short but sweet, 2 out of 5 little devils, because there weren't that many. there weren't. I think when Dewey got gutted, that was practical. Yeah. Mainly.
Well, they made an effort to have a nice close-up of the blood falling out of his gut.
Yeah, I mean, if I'd seen the guts, I would have been happy, but really sad at the same time because Dewey's getting hurt. But it's more bloody fun. It's not necessarily
the stunt work was amazing as always.
Yeah, definitely.
Stunt work is one of the things that the horror genre can pride itself on, especially if you look at the likes of Halloween, Friday the 13th.
Oh yeah,
with all the Jasons, Nightmare on Elm Street as well.
Evil Dead
2.
Bruce Campbell did a lot of his own stunts, and because of that he's sour now, which I can understand because he's getting older. Leave the boy alone. But all in all, we did really enjoy Scream, and apparently they're making some more.
That's what the thinking of.
The rumour on the grapevine, heard it on the grapevine.
Which is the internet.
Yeah, internet, who'd have it? Us apparently, YouTubers have it. But I really hope you enjoyed this review video. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about. Let us know if there's any horror movies that you want us to do. We've got loads in the line work. We want to do Behind the Mask, the story of Leslie Vernon.
Well, the rise of Leslie Vernon.
The rise of Leslie Vernon. That was phenomenal. It's a forgotten horror movie. And it's great, it really is.
It's different.
I want to do Werewolves. Is it Werewolves Among Us?
Werewolves Within.
Werewolves Within, which is based on a board game. Video game. I'm so glad he's here because I wouldn't know what's going on half the time.
Again, I pay attention.
He does, he really does. We watched that the other day, didn't we? And it was so much fun. And we want to do more, we really do. Like, we usually do this kind of conversation, don't we, to digest our thoughts about horror movies, and we just wanted
Normally in a McDonald's, but
we're trying to lose weight apparently. But we just wanted to bring you guys along for the ride with us. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know your thoughts if you've been to see Scream. If you don't want to see Scream because of a particular reason, let us know. But I hope you've had a good day. If not, that's okay. Always remember, tomorrow's a new day. See you later, guys. Bye.
Bye.